from Philadelphia on this 4th of July, 1976. This is Bill Monroe inviting you to a special one-hour edition of Meet the Press with the governors of Iowa, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Virginia, and Pennsylvania.
Meet the Press, America's press conference of the air and the world's oldest network television program, is a public affairs presentation of NBC News. Today's special edition of Meet the Press is brought to you by Exxon. And by United Technology Corporation.
Energy. We need so much. Yet new sources like nuclear fusion or solar are years away. Meanwhile, United Technologies is developing fuel cell power plants similar to those we built for the Apollo space flights, which can generate up to 30% more electricity with little or no pollution. At the same time, oil companies are searching for still more energy. Without the 280-mile range of this Sikorsky helicopter, offshore exploration for oil and gas would be impractical. Keep talking. We hear your need for trouble-free telephone service. One way to meet that need is by putting cables underground. This one packs 6,600 conductors into a moisture-proof unit only 4 inches in diameter. With the technologies of Power Systems Division, Sikorsky, and Essex, 3 units of United Technologies. High technology is our basic strength. We make it work for you in many ways.
Our guests today on the special 4th of July edition of Meet the Press are governors of 3 of the original 13 states and 2 governors who head the Republican and Democratic platform committees. Governor Robert Ray of Iowa, chairman of the Republican Platform Committee and chairman of the National Governors Conference, which meets tomorrow in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Governor Wendell Anderson of Minnesota, chairman of the Democratic Platform Committee. Governor Michael Dukakis, Democrat of Massachusetts. Governor Mills Godwin, Republican of Virginia. And Governor Milton Shapp, Democrat of Pennsylvania and host of the Governors Conference. We'll have the first questions now from Lawrence C. Spivak of NBC News.
Governor Ray, especially during this bicentennial year, I've heard it said over and over again that one of the troubles with this country today is that we lack a sense of national purpose. Do you think we lack a sense of national purpose?
I think we've been suffering from that very problem. And I think that's when we look at the states for some direction and some new leadership. And I think we have seen in this last year how the National Governors Conference has somewhat come alive, and we have been looking at what some of the states have done. And I think you'll find more and more leadership there, and I think the bicentennial year has been an excellent time for us to realize that this nation really was formed by the states. And so the federal government came about and is in existence because of what those colonies and the states have done. And also, the other units of government were formed by the states. And so I would expect the states to play a very dominant role in the 3rd century.
Governor Anderson, what do you think our national purpose is today, or should be?
Well, first, I think there was a lack of purpose the last 10, 12 years, largely because of our involvement in Vietnam. It was a tragic mistake. When I got out of school, people could buy a house, they could get a job. Young people getting out of school today have been denied, in many cases, those opportunities. But I think there is a national purpose today. I think that the people are finding it for us. I think the people are out in front of their elected officials. I think they're going to demand full employment. I think they're going to demand a more careful use of our military forces. And so I'm very optimistic in terms of the future.
Governor Dukakis, 200 years ago, when this nation was founded, our national purpose was described more or less as a spirit of almost pure idealism, the search for liberty for all. How would you describe the spirit of our nation today?
Well, I think it's a very troubled spirit today, and I think it has a lot to do with what Governor Anderson talked about. This has been a terrible decade for us with Vietnam and Watergate and a great many other things. But I think we're beginning to recapture it. I hope we are, and as we look to the next century, I hope it will be a national purpose of idealism and morality tempered with an understanding that we are not morally superior to other people, that we can't impose our way of life on other people, that we have to be a responsible partner in the international community, and that one of the best ways of demonstrating to the rest of the world that we know what we're doing is to create the conditions for the good life here at home in the form of jobs and health care, and a great many other things which we have failed to do in the course of the past 2 or 3 decades.
Governor Godwin, how do you see our sense of national purpose today?
Well, I suspect that in many ways it's not greatly different from what it was 200 years ago. Then they were trying to articulate a philosophy and an idealism that through these ensuing 200 years we have tried to perfect. We have done a remarkably good job, I think, by and large, in that connection. We've had our ups and downs, our frustrations, and our disappointments. But I rather think that today that the American people are ready for the kind of leadership that will restore the kind of idealism and the philosophy that our founding fathers espoused.
Governor Shapp, what do you think our sense of national purpose is today?
Well, I think our sense of national purpose has drifted. I don't think that this nation is doing all it can to meet the ideals upon which it was founded. When we're satisfied, as many of our leaders are, in both the Congress and in the administration, with an official 7.5% of our working force unemployed and millions others not even listed in that statistic because they're either underemployed or just not registered on the rolls. When we're satisfied that millions of our young people are not going to have the education and training that they need to be productive in their future lives, when we lack the health services that so many millions of our people need, when we allow so many of our senior citizens to live in poverty, misery, and loneliness, I say that this country is not doing what it could do and should do for our people. And a nation such as ours that has the wealth, that has the resources, and the great technical abilities should be doing more. And once we establish that type of spirit, I think then we'll be returning to the path that I think would recognize that we are doing what we should be doing, and we'll have a greater national goal and greater feeling in this country.
Thank you, Governors. We'll be back with questions from our other panel members in a minute, but first this message.
Colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the skies, also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do?
He was poor and uneducated, but Louis Armstrong grew up to become our great goodwill ambassador, charming the world with the special genius of his music. He was idolized everywhere because he transcended politics and language with a uniquely American expression of joy, love, and celebration called jazz. The spirit of achievement is the spirit of America. This message was brought to you by Exxon in commemoration of the American bicentennial.
Now back to Meet the Press, an unrehearsed press conference. Here is our moderator, Bill Monroe.
Our guests, the governors of Iowa, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. In addition to Lawrence Spivak, our reporters include Neil Pierce of the National Journal, Chuck Stone of the Philadelphia Daily News, and Tom Pettit of NBC News. Mr. Pierce?
Governor Ray, you spoke hopefully a moment ago of the state's role in the third century, but do you really think they're doing enough now to reassert their role as vital entities within American federalism?
I don't think we have done enough. I doubt that we are doing enough, but I think the people are looking to us. I think you'll find a much higher degree of acceptance among the states and by the people with the states than they accept the federal government. And I think people are realizing that they're getting more for their dollar from the states. And so I think the people are going to make that difference, and I think the governors are going to be there and leading the way as the people join them in wanting revenue sharing and wanting some control over the dollars that they're now spending through taxes.
Aren't you discouraged that so few states are doing what they could with their own revenue sharing for localities, or with instituting land use plans that have any teeth in them, or reforming their criminal justice systems, all these things they might be doing but often aren't?
Well, I find that we have done much of what you already suggested needs to be done in our state, and I think other states are even farther ahead of us in some ways, particularly like land use. I think that we are making some headway, and I've learned after being governor 8 years that you have to have a little patience, and sometimes that which you introduce early takes a while to catch hold, and then when it does, the people are very happy with the progress that follows.
Mr. Stone?
Governor Anderson, you were cataloged as one of 14 possibilities of Mr. Jimmy Carter's running mate. Has his emissary, Mr. Kirby, talked with you yet?
No, but my phone number is 296-3391. Area code 612.
I tell you, if you were chosen, you would accept that. Is that right?
I would even accept the phone call collect.
Yeah. The other thing is that if you were not chosen, whom do you regard as the favorites?
Actually, my choice is Senator Mondale from Minnesota. I think he'd be the strongest running mate for Jimmy Carter.
I'm glad you mentioned him because something intrigues me about Minnesota. You and Senator Humphrey and Senator Mondale are three of the most outstanding liberals in the country. What is it about Minnesota that elects three men of such liberal stature of yourselves?
That's a difficult question. I think one of the things that we've got going for ourselves is that we've had Hubert Humphrey as our inspirational leader for some 30 years. I think many, many young people were attracted to the DFL party because of his incredible good record. I think he's the premier legislator of the 20th century. And if there's one factor, it's Hubert H. Humphrey.
Mr. Pettit?
Governor Dukakis, who do you like for vice president?
Wendell Anderson. No,
I mean, a New England governor?
It's called comedy among the governors.
Who would you like to see on the ticket?
Well, it's very hard to say. I'm a great believer in a presidential nominee picking a running mate who's compatible with him. I've said before that I think Governor Carter is doing this in a way which is probably unprecedented because he has the time and has the will to take care and to do it just as thoroughly as he possibly can. I would think that it would be helpful to him to have somebody who, in a sense, complements him, perhaps from a different region of the country, perhaps with a different area of expertise, but beyond that, I wouldn't begin to suggest who it ought to be or whether it should be somebody from the Congress or from a governor's office or somebody from outside elective politics.
If you would, sir, look ahead 100 years and tell me what you see. Will we still have those ancient problems of race and poverty? Will school busing still be an issue? Or are we doomed to have those issues with us throughout the life of this republic?
I can't conceive of this country still facing those issues 100 years from now if we do what is within us to do. Poverty should be wiped out in this country. The problem of race and the divisions within our people by that time, I would hope and expect, would have been virtually eliminated. And while that doesn't mean that 100 years from now we will have no major national problems, if this country, with all of its resources and talent and ability, can't eliminate those problems from the scene, then I would be surprised and really very disappointed.
Mr. Spivak?
Governor Godwin, you were first elected governor as a member of the Democratic Party and the second time as a Republican. What did the switch accomplish for you, besides getting you elected?
Well, it obviously helped do that. I don't know anything that I might attribute to Mr. Spivak directly to what it may have accomplished by way of anything other than an adherence to a political philosophy in which I firmly believed. When I was a member of the Democratic Party, I certainly had conservative convictions at that time. The party in my state, at least the leadership and the structure of the party in Virginia, changed overwhelmingly from one of moderate conservative leadership to one of a more liberal and radical leadership. And many thousands of Virginians could not stand that type of leadership in the political party in which they belonged, and I simply felt more compatible with the political philosophy of the Republican Party in Virginia, particularly after the events of 1972.
Would you like to see the parties realign so that the Republicans become the conservative party and the Democrats become the liberal party in the nation?
I think there's a great deal of merit in that, although I think both parties are large enough and diverse enough to accommodate people of different viewpoints. But I do think that people who think moderate to conservative would like to feel that they have a political home in which the leadership of the party will express their views and convictions and try to make some impact and connection with them in the government.
Governor, the race for the Republican nomination has become a close and a bitter one between President Ford and Governor Reagan.
Yes,
do you see any difference in philosophy between the two of them?
Yes, I do. I think they're both conservative. In my own view, I would put President Ford a little less conservative than Governor Reagan. They are both certainly to the right of the philosophical center. I could support either one of them. I am supporting President Ford and have been all along. It's my opinion that he will carry our state in the general election.
Mr. Pierce?
Governor Shapp, a few years ago, this city of Philadelphia was enjoying a golden age of renewal under mayors like Joseph Clark and Richardson Dilworth. But now it seems to be on the fiscal ropes, and it has a mayor who could easily be called vengeful in his attitude towards his opponents. What happened to the city of brotherly love?
Well, let's take it on two levels. First, like most American cities, Philadelphia is having a hard time meeting the demands of its people and the needs of its people. And so, like most American cities, regardless who is mayor of this city, I think you would find a situation that is bordering on, not quite yet, to the level of the New York City crisis. And I think that there's going to have to be a major change in the relationship that exists between the federal government, states, and local communities in the near future in order to make certain that the cities remain viable and vital places for American life. As far as the present mayor is concerned, he was elected by the people of Philadelphia. In fact, he was elected overwhelmingly the first time, and a substantial victory his second time. And so it's quite obvious that the people of Philadelphia have believed that he can help them resolve some of the problems that exist in our cities. Whether he will or not is a question that is still to be answered, but time and time only will tell that.
Is there significant official corruption in Philadelphia and other parts of Pennsylvania at this point?
I would say no more, perhaps less than there is in the other states of this nation. Corruption is a word that is used nationally today as the aftermath of Watergate has led most newspapers to have investigative reporters and has led the Department of Justice into a very hard-hitting campaign, and so they got more searchlights on the corruption that has existed in all levels of political life for many decades in America.
That puts more emphasis on the states taking care of their own corruption, but I note that you fired the special prosecutor in Philadelphia. Doesn't that indicate a necessity for having strong independent prosecutors in the states who can go after official corruption wherever it appears?
No, Mr. Pierce, the question you raise is not backed by, or the statement you made is not backed by the facts. We replaced one special prosecutor in Philadelphia because of incompetence. We appointed another one, and I've been fighting for 3 years against my legislature to fund the special prosecutor. I found for the past 2 years the money in federal LEAA funds, and this year the legislature in retaliation has passed a new law in Pennsylvania, which I vetoed, and then they overrode my veto, which took away from me the power to allocate federal funds. We're going to court over that issue. I've been fighting to maintain the special prosecutor's office and strengthen its operation.
Mr. Stone?
Governor Ray, you're one of 2 Republican governors on this panel, which is much higher than the percentage around the country, which I think is 26%. Given the diminishing confidence in the Republican Party at the national level, I have reference to the only, I think, 13 Republican governors, and then the 140 members of Congress who are Republicans. Is it at all conceivable that neither Mr. Ford nor Mr. Reagan are what the Republican Party needs to become a majority party again?
Well, I think we can become a majority party. I don't think it's easy. I think we had things going our way up until Watergate, and I think many, many excellent candidates that were Republicans went down as a result of the American people wanting to purge the party because of what happened in Washington. And I think that's unfortunate, but it's understandable. And so we have a long trail to come back. And it's not going to be easy. We're the first to acknowledge and recognize that. But I think it's possible. I can remember being a state chairman when we had to come back after '64. Maybe the conditions are different and not the same, but nonetheless, there were many of the press and others that were saying at that time that we were about to see the demise of the Republican Party. It didn't happen. The party came back strong, elected a Republican president not once but twice. And so I think that we can come back, and I think these candidates can help bring us back. And like I say, it's not easy, but it's certainly reasonable to expect us to come back with a strong showing.
That's like a little whistling in the dark. There's no evidence that you are coming back, however. You continue to lose the governorships, you continue to lose members of Congress, mayors. You have a minority
I think we
of mayors.
took a very severe blow after Watergate, and it was a body blow, and it really put us on the ropes. I think we are making some headway, and I think it's possible to win. I ran in that election last time and was elected, and I think you can see some evidence that the party will come alive. I see it as I go about my state and in other places around the country. There is a desire for the Republican Party to stay very much viable and alive. Now, we still have two candidates, and until we get that resolved, you're going to see some friction and some contest going on between the candidates and those who follow each candidate. After that happens, I think you'll see the gap close considerably.
I assume you saw the New York Times CBS poll last month that showed the vote divided between Mr. Ford and Mr. Carter, 43 to 42%, the white voters. And when you introduce the black voter preference, that differential widens to 46%, or 40%. Why would not the Republican Party woo black voters to narrow that gap?
I think the question is an excellent one, and I think we should do it on solid basis and not just woo them with public relations. I think the party has certainly the right start when it was our party that freed the slaves, and I think from that we can begin. We have not done a good job in this area, and I fault our party for that, and we certainly welcome the blacks and minorities and others into the party, and I think the party has to open its arms and it has to stretch out, reach out, and bring people into the party.
Mr. Pettit?
Governor Anderson, do you like everything about Jimmy Carter?
I'm perfectly prepared to strongly and enthusiastically support Jimmy Carter for president.
Do you like everything about him?
I can't think of anything I don't like.
You like his position on busing?
I think his position on busing is consistent with our platform. I support our platform.
But do you like that?
I like that.
Let me ask you one other thing then, sir. The platform is almost without controversy. The convention will be almost without controversy. And there is some dissension within the Democratic Party. Do you think it's healthy for a party to suppress every ounce of dissension that it has?
I don't think that's the case at all. I think that it's been many, many years since we've had a national convention where there hasn't been outward and inward hostility. I think we're entitled to have one convention that hopefully will be even just a little bit boring. I think we put together a platform that's a sound platform that makes sense not just to Jimmy Carter, but I think it'll make sense to the American people. I think it'll make sense to the Congress. But again, I don't think we have to go looking for fights. I think that we've had too many in the past.
But it is tailored to his wishes, is it not?
It certainly is, and I think properly so.
Mr. Spivak?
Governor Dukakis, in a Wall Street Journal article, it was said that you, as a legislator, voted for most of the social welfare programs that almost bankrupt your state of Massachusetts. And I guess you were legislator for about 8 years. But that as a governor, you're pretty tight-fisted, and you supply only the services the state can afford. Do you see any inconsistency in those positions?
No, I don't, because when I was a legislator, Mr. Spivak, back in the 60s, we were doing very well in Massachusetts and the Northeast economically. In fact, our unemployment rate back when I left the legislature in 1969, 1970 was less than the national average. It was less than 3%. We then went through a period in my state, in my region, but in my state particularly, where we were not doing a very good job of economic growth and job creation. We kind of forgot about that. We kept piling program on top of program without any idea of how we were going to pay for it. And during the next 3 or 4 years, I happened to be out of the legislature.
Weren't you voting for those programs?
No, I was out of the legislature during that period. But during that period of time, we began stagnating economically, and of course that meant that our revenues were stagnating while we kept expanding the amount of programs that we were offering to our people. So that by the time I arrived in the governor's office in 1975, we were in desperately serious shape. I'm happy to say that after 18 rather painful and grueling months, we now are back on our feet. We have a modest surplus. We've had to cut back on services and increase taxes somewhat, but I think we're well on our way now toward a balanced program of human services, social services, and fiscal responsibility, and I don't see any reason why we now cannot continue on that path so long as we continue to build the economic base that fuels that kind of mix of services.
You were recently quoted as saying much of what government has tried to do over the last 15 years has failed. In view of all the money that government has spent in the last 15 years, what's your explanation for the failure?
Well, I think it's been misdirected, particularly at the federal level. I think we've gotten ourselves so involved through the national government in so many, many different programs that we've forgotten that the role of the federal government, in my view at least, has to be concentrated on some very important
problems of compelling national significance. What do I mean by that? Obviously, a responsible foreign policy, a guarantee of employment to people who want to work in this country, a comprehensive national health insurance system, a national energy policy, a decent national transportation network. If we had national leadership that would concentrate on those major issues, then I think those of us in governor's offices and state legislatures would be perfectly happy to assume responsibility for many, many other public problems that I think we can deal with much better. And one of the problems has been that there has been so much federal involvement in so many of the details of so many programs without the kind of attention to these major issues of compelling national importance that we've tended to get all balled up in a large, massive federal bureaucracy, and we've failed to solve the problems of unemployment and health care and other things at the national level, which clearly have to be the responsibility of the national government.
Mr. Pierce?
Governor Godwin, today is not only the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, but it's also the 150th anniversary of the day that Thomas Jefferson died at Monticello. And with Jefferson's passing, it seems that the lights of creativity flickered out in Virginia. Never again have we had the likes of his generation, Patrick Henry, George Washington, John Marshall, James Madison, and all the others. They were all Virginians. They seemed to light a flame of American liberty and nationhood and idealism. My question to you is this: does modern-day Virginia have any comparable leaders to offer the nation? And even more important, does it have any comparable values to offer to the United States at large?
Well, in response to the first part of that question, I would say that Virginia has comparable leaders to offer to those that other states have to offer. I don't know that any states have comparable leadership to offer when you want to compare them with Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry and George Washington and some of the founding fathers of this country who were the great patriots of our land and who happened to be Virginians and who gave so much to the formation of our government. As to what Virginia has to offer by way of values, I'm rather surprised at the question. I don't know how many times you visit us. I hope frequently. But I would like to think that the values that Virginia attaches to the good life are about as fine as anywhere you find in this country.
Are those
Virginia is a
quo...
very great and good state, and it's that way because we try to keep our own house in order. We try to live budget-wise within our means. We don't believe in going in debt, even for good things, unless we have the money set aside to take care of it. We think there are many things that need to be done in the arena of public services, but we don't want Virginia to go down the same rocky road that the federal government seems to have been headed down for so long. And if, for one thing only, if we might understand in this bicentennial year, so long as you're talking about values, that if our people in this country could understand that our economic system in America and our political system in America are very closely interwoven. As a matter of fact, our political system grew out of a long period of our economic system in this country. And what bothers me is that if we let either of these systems become so eroded that we stand in danger of losing them, then this country will be in dire peril, as will all of its states.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll continue this special edition of Meet the Press shortly after these announcements.
To provide the most dependable power for their aircraft, Beech and Piper use PT6 turboprop engines from United Technologies. Built by our Pratt & Whitney Aircraft Group, they're far and away the most popular engines of their kind in the world. To help your car respond to your every demand, leading manufacturers like Ford Motor Company use electrical systems from our Essex Group to keep the electricity flowing reliably to every part of your car. We're also a major factor in airborne life support. To keep you comfortable at jet altitudes, the Boeing 747 and Lockheed L-1011 use air conditioning and pressurization systems from our Hamilton Standard Division. We're the technologies of Hamilton Standard, Essex, Pratt & Whitney Aircraft. 3 units of United Technologies. High technology is our basic strength. We make it work for you in many ways.
Meet the Press continues after station identification.
Now, John Chancellor and David Brinkley report the news every night, Monday through Friday on NBC.
This is Bill Monroe inviting you to this second half of this special July the 4th edition of Meet the Press with the governors of Iowa, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Virginia, and Pennsylvania.
Anne Sullivan was a child without promise, orphaned and almost sightless. But she spent her adult life bringing understanding and illumination to those trapped in darkness and silence. She taught the deaf and the blind. And her greatest achievement of all was that she enabled those minds cut off from sight and sound to find expression. Her pioneering teaching methods brought the music of understanding to the ears of the deaf and the eyes of the blind. Hers was a life of compassion, tenderness, patience, and love. And her most illustrious pupil, Helen Keller, went on to become one of the great women of our time. We salute Anne Sullivan for her great achievements in teaching and helping the handicapped. The spirit of achievement is the spirit of America. This message was brought to you by Exxon in commemoration of the American bicentennial.
This special edition of Meet the Press is originating from Philadelphia on the eve of the National Governors Conference, which opens tomorrow in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Our guests, Governor Robert Ray of Iowa, Governor Wendell Anderson of Minnesota, Governor Michael Dukakis of Massachusetts, Governor Mills Godwin of Virginia, and Governor Milton Shapp of Pennsylvania. Our reporters are Lawrence E. Spivak of NBC News, Neil Pierce of the National Journal, Chuck Stone of the Philadelphia Daily News, and Tom Pettit of NBC News. I'd like to ask each of you governors this question, beginning in reverse order with Governor Shapp. A few years ago, it appeared that this country was moving away from the death penalty. It seemed as if it might be possible that nobody would ever be executed in this country again. Now we seem to be moving back toward the death penalty. Various states are passing laws calling for capital punishment. The Supreme Court has approved it, depending on how the states write their laws. Are we moving away from a high level of civilization and humaneness which we reached when we appeared to be on the verge of outlawing the death penalty, or are we returning to an effective and necessary deterrent for the worst of crimes? Governor Shapp?
Well, I have been opposed to the reinstitution of the capital punishment laws in this nation. I think the evidence is quite clear that capital punishment has not reduced crime, nor has it reduced the tendency of people to create serious crimes. But I think the answer to your question is that with the new makeup of the Supreme Court, being more conservative than the previous Supreme Court, the pendulum is shifting back to where it was 10, 15 years ago. And I think this is the nature of the situation in this country. We do shift back and forth in many important issues. And so I think we're going through a period of time where the capital punishment will be reinstated. And then I think sometime in a not-too-distant future, because it will be proven that it will not be effective in reducing crime and stopping some of the horrendous problems that we have, that it will once again be declared unconstitutional.
Governor Godwin?
Well, I support the death penalty in appropriate cases, and I was pleased with the decision of the Supreme Court this past Friday. I disagree respectfully with my colleague from Pennsylvania. I feel that the death penalty is a deterrent to the commission of aggravated and very serious crimes. I think that it is evident from those we've had in our penal systems who have been put there since the death penalty was outlawed that they knew that they almost immune from anything else that they might do. They had a life sentence already. But I think that the death penalty, knowing that the death penalty is a possibility in an appropriate case, that it is a deterrent, and I agree completely with the Supreme Court in their decision last week, and I'm glad to see them come back to where they were.
Governor Dukakis?
I don't favor the death penalty, never have. In fact, have vetoed a capital punishment bill that was passed by my own legislature, but I don't think the movement of the country back toward this kind of thing and other forms of tougher penalties, mandatory sentencing, for example, and there's a great deal of support for that increasingly, reflects anything more than a genuine and a very deep public concern for what is a rising crime rate, more lawlessness, particularly in our cities, but even now in our suburbs and rural areas, and as I say, a perfectly understandable reaction to that and frustration at the inability of those of us in government and increasing amounts of resources that we're pouring into law enforcement to cope with this problem. I'm hopeful that we'll begin to make some moves in the other direction and begin to see that reflected in reducing murder rates and crime rates, but so far I must say that the country and those of us at the state and local level have been unable to do that.
About the death penalty, Governor Dukakis, what is your objection to it?
Well, my objection is essentially one on moral grounds. I agree with Governor Shapp. I don't think it's a deterrent, but it seems to me that to respond to the commission of murder by the premeditated taking of life by the state in response to that is not a humane and a moral thing to do, and it's just a matter of personal morality and personal choice, I suppose, and each of us has to make that judgment. I can't say that people who favor it are bad people or immoral. They aren't. It's just something that is instinctive, I think, with us, and I just, in all humanity, cannot support the taking of life by the state.
Governor Anderson, in this bicentennial year, are we moving forward or backward in returning to the death penalty?
Well, I think that, first of all, Minnesota, we've not had it since 1911. I don't support it, and I think I speak for the vast majority of legislators and the people of Minnesota. But I do understand the frustration that all Americans feel over our inability to deal effectively with crime. We haven't done an adequate job at the state level, local level, federal level, and so I understand why some 35 states have resorted to capital punishment. I don't happen to agree, but I understand why they're doing it.
Governor Ray?
Well, as a matter of fact, I think the last one that was put to death in my state also could have been tried in Minnesota at a time when they did not have capital punishment. And as I recall, they did not have a higher crime rate at that time than we did, and we had capital punishment at that time. I have not favored capital punishment. I don't happen to favor the reinstitutionalizing of it or instituting it. I have not believed that it is a deterrent. And as a matter of fact, I was very proud of our legislature when they recodified our entire criminal code. They would not include capital punishment again, even though they debated it very thoroughly.
Probably should be said here that we may have a different assortment of governors here in terms of how the states feel in general, because I think a majority of the states have a death penalty or are about to enact death penalties. Thank you, governors. We'll continue our interview shortly. First, this message.
To make air travel as dependable as you want it, 197 airlines depend on Pratt & Whitney aircraft engines from United Technologies. In peak periods, nearly 1,500 of their aircraft throughout the world make some 20,000 takeoffs in a single day. To show what's wrong with your car and what's needed to fix it, car dealers, garages, and gas stations use our AutoSense engine analyzer. It's an electronic computer system that gives you a printout showing not only what's wrong, but whether the repairs fix the problem. To help you cook in minutes, Amana uses our computerized controls on its Touchmatic radar range microwave oven. It thaws frozen food, holds it till the right moment, cooks it precisely, and with a quiet beep, tells you it's ready to enjoy. We're the technologies of Pratt & Whitney aircraft, Hamilton Standard, and Essex, 3 units of United Technologies. High technology is our basic strength. We make it work for you in many ways.
We'll continue the questioning now with Mr. Stone.
Governor Shapp, I'd like to put together 3 separate facts. Last week you made history becoming the first Pennsylvania governor to have 5 vetoes overridden in one day. One of those vetoes taking away your control of the federal funds. Secondly, in your 5 years as governor, you have repeatedly called for a state graduated tax amendment and control over the hospitals as 2 of your most important pieces of legislation, and neither have been enacted yet. And then finally, given the fact that you're a Democrat and both houses are controlled by the Democrats, you seem unable to avoid these embarrassing political defeats and legislative failures. Is it possible that you've lost the will and the capacity to govern the nation's 4th largest state?
Not at all. If you again look at the record, the same day that the legislature did override 5 vetoes, we passed the Consumer Advocate Bill for the Public Utility Commission, and we got the 3 other major bills through. My record has been spotty, and part of the anger was something I answered to Mr. Pierce before. the legislature has tried to strip my authority to utilize federal funds for the programs as I see fit. And it's my contention, and that of the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, that the legislature has no right to do its own appropriation of federal funds. These funds come to the governor and are to be allocated through the various departments as the governor and the executive department of the government see fit. And so the legislature and I are locked in this battle. We're going to go to the courts over this battle. And so in a pique, I had a little trouble with that, fit of pique, the legislature overrode the veto on the federal funding bill and then took some action I think they're going to regret. For example, one of the bills that I had vetoed was a bill that increased pensions and allowed counties to increase their pension funds without making certain that the revenue for those funds was sufficient to enable increases in the outgo from the funds. And I think that bill is going to come back and will be passed again and vetoed, and I think this time they'll sustain it, or the legislature, I think, just acted in a very unstable manner. And I had a meeting with some of the legislative leaders afterwards, and they were a little
You don't think
angry.
there was a loss of confidence, though, by the legislative leaders, the Democratic leaders in both the House and the Senate, that they weren't able to persuade the House not to?
Chuck, if you look at what we've done in Pennsylvania this year, we have our budget through for the 5th consecutive year. We haven't had to raise taxes. We have allocated our funding at the state level in proper way, whereas in previous administrations, they never could get a budget passed in time, and we always had this disruption in the state government. We have just passed the most monumental bill in the history of the state, overhauling all the vehicular regulations in the state. We've done some major things in Pennsylvania, and this was just a show of one-upsmanship at that particular day, and I don't think it reflects at all. And I think the fact that the same day they gave me the 4 or 5 pieces of major legislation that I've been seeking indicates that my relationship with the legislature has not deteriorated to the extent that you're reading into it.
Mr. Pettit?
Governor Ray, how much has the Ford-Reagan fight hurt the Republican Party? Has it made the nomination not worth anything?
No, on the contrary. I think the Republican Party needed some controversy. It needed a contest. It needed something to stir the people. We had an incumbent Republican president. I think it was almost a necessity to bring the party alive to have that contest. Now, I'm also aware that it's very tight and people are very tense, and as we get closer to the convention without either one of them having enough votes to win the nomination, that there could develop some bitterness. But frankly, in our state, we had a very tough battle in the convention, and yet I don't feel the bitterness.
Well, you got on the delegation, though, just barely.
Well,
how about the ones who didn't?
No, I'm well acquainted with them, and they're disappointed, but I don't feel the bitterness like in '64, as an example. And I would hope that bitterness would not develop, and I would hope that we could come out of a convention all supporting the Republican nominee.
Reagan or Ford?
Right.
And that either of those men could beat Carter in the fall?
Well, I think either one would carry my state.
Well, how about winning the presidency, though?
Well, I can't measure that, but I think either one could. I recognize he will start out at a definite disadvantage. It will mean that he will have to close a gap of quite a distance, but I think that's possible. I think that once we get a candidate and you will see that candidate head-on-head with Jimmy Carter, you'll see a real battle. Keep in mind that Jimmy Carter, as I recall, didn't win all of the primaries when he was facing one person on the other side. Jerry Brown won, Frank Church won. I think the Republican candidate can win.
Why is Ford in so much trouble in his own party that his own nomination is not assured? Where did he go wrong? Was it political? Was it presidential? Or was it just Mr. Ford's own inherent weaknesses?
Well, if you'll look back with me to the beginning of the campaign, you might recall many were saying that President Ford's future depended upon the economy. And the economy has turned around. It has bounced back. Inflation is down. Unemployment is down. Things are much better than they were. We're at peace. And so it seems as though the president should be getting credit for much of that, and yet I'm afraid he is not.
Well, and what's the reason?
And so I have to merely say that I think the president has displayed what we look for in a president, the honesty and the ability to work with people, the understanding that he has shown with us as governors. And I don't think the people have seen that side of Jerry Ford. And so I would have to attribute that to the campaign, certainly not to the person himself.
Mr. Spivak?
Governor Anderson, for some time now, there's been a controversy over the growth of federal power, the loss of state power, and the whole question of big government, I guess, is going to be a big issue again in this campaign. Based on your experience as governor, do you think the federal government now has too much power?
I think it has too much power. I think it isn't so much the bigness, but it's bloated. But I think they've taken a very proper step by strongly supporting revenue sharing. I think the best way to share some of the power is to share with the states and local units of government more of the purse. In Minnesota, in the last 5 years, we've substantially increased aids to local units of government and to local school districts. In fact, we've increased it in excess of $2 billion. I think that's given local municipal officials and school officials the opportunity to meet needs without having to raise property taxes, which I think is the big local issue in this country. In Detroit, they've had to lay off 1,000 police officers because the alternative would be to raise obnoxious, heavy property taxes. So I think that the best thing the federal government could do in terms of sharing its power is give us more of those dollars.
Well, you don't, are there any specific powers that you would like, or is it just that you want more money?
Well, I think that, sir, power over the purse is the real power that the federal government has. They have control over the federal income tax. That's where the money is. That's where the power is.
What would you do if you had more federal money that you're not able to do now?
I think that in Minnesota, we would put the money to good use in the area of education, in the area of rebuilding our cities.
Governor Anderson, Jimmy Carter has been talking about having revenue-sharing money go directly to localities, bypassing the states. What do you think of that?
I think that the present formula, in my judgment, is a sounder formula. In Minnesota, about half the revenue-sharing money goes to the states, and we reallocate it, and the other half goes directly to the cities. He'd have it all go to the cities. I don't agree with that.
We've detected one difference between
That's
you
correct.
and...
I'm so pleased with that.
And your candidate. Mr. Pierce?
Governor Dukakis, a survey released by the National Journal last week shows that the economically imperiled Northeast and Midwestern regions of the country are losing about $30 billion a year through federal tax and spending policy that channels about the same amount of money to the growing and booming states of the Sun Belt and to the far west. As a New England governor, does that kind of dollar flow for which the federal government is responsible concern you?
Yes, it does very much. In fact, so much that we are now joining together with the states of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and I hope with the Great Lakes states over a period of time to develop some kind of a coalition to reverse that imbalance. Now, in saying that, I don't want to sow the seeds of division nationally. I don't think we have to be fighting amongst ourselves for a limited amount of the pie or begin to engage in pitched battles between the Northeast and the Great Lakes states on the one hand and the South and Southwest on the other. I think if we had a full employment policy in this country with the kind of national leadership in the White House that was committed to it, and we don't have that today, then I don't think you'd see these kinds of national divisions. Governor Anderson and I and the platform committee of the Democratic Party, however, made special reference to this problem when we advocated as part of a total full employment policy for the country some specialized regional assistance to those areas of the country which may be hurting at one time or another. Now, that may be Appalachia one decade, it may be the Northeast the next, maybe Southern California the next. But clearly that kind of special, tailored, regional economic assistance ought to be part of a sensible and responsible national economic policy, and it's very much a part of the Democratic platform.
Can you tell me what some of those steps are that the Democratic platform recommends that would really help out the Northeast, particularly its very hard-pressed cities?
We'd do a number of things. To begin with, obviously, if we could have a simplified system of income maintenance in this country, federally financed or substantially federally financed, that would be of enormous assistance. If we had a comprehensive national health insurance system, that would be of enormous assistance. If we had a full employment policy, that would be of tremendous assistance because much of our persistent unemployment in this country is in the cities, particularly the inner cities. In addition to that, we recommend some very specific things. First, the targeting of federal investment funds into areas of high unemployment. It's absolutely outrageous, for example, that Massachusetts has to go to a Canadian company to buy transit cars for our transit system because Detroit can't produce transit cars. We ought to be able to link those federal monies for transit assistance with unemployment problems in the Detroit area. And that's just a simple example of the kind of thing the federal government could do.
Mr. Stone?
Governor Godwin, I'd like to take my cue from Mr. Pierce's last question to you about creative leadership and narrow it to a single parameter. In the 11 southern states, there is a total of 399 black elected officials in the local and state Board of Education. That's an average of 39 per state. And yet Virginia is the only one that doesn't have a single black elected official in education. In addition, these same 11 southern states has a total of 83 black state representatives. Virginia only has one. What does that say about Virginia, and more importantly, about your leadership as a two-term governor?
Well, I'll leave it up to the people of Virginia about my own leadership of the state. I find they're reasonably well satisfied with it on that score. But we don't elect our education officials in Virginia. They are appointed or they're elected by the local governing bodies, and those at the state level are appointed by the governor and elected by ratified by the General Assembly. We do have a black on our state Board of Education in Virginia. We have had one. In fact, I'm the governor who put the first one on the board.
Appointed. I'm talking about black elected officials. In other words, at the local level.
What do you mean, on the state board of what?
Oh, any state Board of Education or local boards of education.
Well, we don't elect them.
No, you don't elect them in local boards?
No, they're not elected on local boards.
Nowhere in the state?
They're elected by the city councils and by the Board of Supervisors, but they're not elected by the people. We have many elected black officials in Virginia.
You have one state representative, whereas the average is 7 for the 11 states.
What do you mean, one state representative?
It's the one black state representative.
Oh, we have one state senator who is black.
I said state representative, sir.
Yes, sir. And we have one delegate who's black.
No, I take it you're satisfied with the number and the progress.
I don't say I'm satisfied with whoever the people will elect. We have some of the finest black people in the nation in our state. And I don't think they're denied in any way the right to run for office. They run very well sometimes. They the black population in Virginia constitutes 18% of our total population. We have some of our largest cities in Virginia that have black mayors, some just elected this past week. I don't think you've been keeping up with what's been going on in Virginia recently in black leadership. We have quite a bit, some very influential blacks.
We have a bit more than 2 minutes. Mr. Pettit?
Governor Shapp, are you interested in being vice president?
It would be improper for me to say I wouldn't be. After all,
Want to give your phone number? Or
no, I don't expect it to be called. No, it's a great honor to be even asked such a question.
Well, it's an honor to ask it.
Well,
let me ask you a real question.
Yeah.
When you dropped out of the presidential race, you said the coverage of me was putrid. The press in this country is just not interested at all in a candidate who wants seriously to raise important issues and problems. All the press wants is one candidate's reaction to another candidate's statement. Sir, do you feel that's still true? And if so, did that contribute to Jimmy Carter's winning?
I think the press is very seldom interested in depth of issues. Here's a program that can solve a given problem. It gets maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs in a newspaper or even in a magazine. It will get maybe 30 seconds to a minute on radio, but there's very little desire on the part of the national press, whether it be the printed, the spoken, or the visual media, to get into issues and analyze programs that are enunciated to deal with major issues.
Do you think the press did in your candidacy?
I don't say they did in. I don't think that the type of campaign I was running, a campaign where I was outlining the basic problems of this country, and here's a program to deal with these basic programs, could possibly get through in a short time primary such I had.
Do you think the reverse of that is that Carter was a creature of the media, that we made him what he is today?
No, I don't think that. I think Jimmy Carter, first of all, got started much earlier than many of the other candidates in the race, was able to start building organization. He had gone around to many of the newspapers and radio stations and television stations during 1973 and 74, or 74 and 75, I should say, and had a chance to get some of his views across. And I think that he was taken from the beginning, particularly after his showing in Florida, Massachusetts and Florida, as a very serious candidate, and the press started then following him and giving him more attention than they did other candidates.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor Shapp. Our time is up. I'll tell you about next week's special edition of Meet the Press in just a minute after this message.
This mighty Mississippi flows across our land from the Great Plains to the sea, and the magic of its waters transformed Samuel Langhorne Clemens, typesetter, wanderer, and river pilot, into Mark Twain, wit, humorist, and author. He captured the love and innocence that are the essence of childhood.
Life sure is easy on a raft, ain't it, Huck?
He countered our prejudices with truth.
Get up, Jim, they're after us. Let me whitewash a little.
And deflated our pretensions with humor.
Tom, I'll give you my kite.
I'll risk $40 he can outjump Annie Frog in Calaveras County.
Tom, I'm scared.
It's all right, Becky. We'll get out of here right away.
He helped us to discover ourselves and gave us an idea of our own identity. And that is why, like the river, his spirit still flows in the mind and heart of this land. The spirit of achievement is the spirit of America. This message was brought to you by Exxon in commemoration of the American bicentennial.
For a printed copy of today's interview, send 25 cents in coin and a stamped self-addressed envelope to Merkel Press, Box 2111, Washington, D.C. 20013.
Next Sunday, the day before the Democratic Convention begins in New York, Meet the Press will present a special one-hour interview with Jimmy Carter, who appears certain of winning the Democratic nomination. That program will begin in our usual time, 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central Time. Now, this is Bill Monroe saying goodbye for our guests, the governors, and Meet the Press.
Today's special edition of Meet the Press has been brought to you by Exxon. And by United Technologies, Hartford, Connecticut. Here are some of the people you'll meet this week on the Today program. Members of the U.S. Olympic team, the first women at West Point, an expert on soap operas, and two experts with some advice for part-time fathers. These are some of the guests on Today beginning tomorrow. All this plus news, weather, sports, and other features this week on Today. Meet the Press has been a public affairs presentation of NBC News and has come to you live from station KYW-TV in Philadelphia.
As America's 200th birthday draws to a close, NBC News summarizes the nationwide celebration with the exciting special, The Best of the Fourth. John Chancellor and David Brinkley bring you a full hour of live reports, commentary, and taped highlights of a great day in history. Sunday, July 4th at 10, 9 Central Time on NBC.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.